You wake up, you take a hot shower. You wash your hands with antibacterial soap before you eat. You wipe down your counters with bleach. If you drop food on the floor, you throw it away. You do this because you want to stay healthy. But for 99.9% of human history, none of this existed. Soap didn't exist. Hot showers didn't exist. Our ancestors lived in the dirt. They slept in it. They ate it. And they survived. In fact, the modern obsession with cleanliness is an incredibly recent invention. For most of history, bathing was considered dangerous. Dirt wasn't the enemy. It was just the environment. So what changed? The answer changes everything we think we know about health, disease, and what it actually means to be. Let's start with a basic fact. You are not just a human. You are an ecosystem. Right now, there are trillions of microorganisms living on your skin, in your mouth, and in your gut. Bacteria, viruses, fungi. You carry more microbial cells than human cells. For millions of years, human beings evolved in perfect harmony with this invisible world. Our immune systems were trained by dirt. When a hunter-gatherer child touched the soil, they weren't just getting dirty. They were downloading a software for their immune system. The soil contained harmless microbes. When those microbes entered the body, the immune system learned to recognize them. It learned the difference between a harmless guest and a lethal threat. It kept the system calibrated, focused. But we didn't just tolerate the dirt. We lived in it. Even as civilizations built cities, humans and animals lived side by side. Streets were covered in mud and manure. Nobody washed their hands before surgery, let alone before dinner. In medieval Europe, bathing was actually actively discouraged. Medical texts from the 1500s warned that hot water opened the pores. They believed open pores let disease enter the body. The air itself was thought to carry miasma, bad air that could penetrate clean skin, so people layered their clothes. They masked their smell with perfumes and spices. Queen Elizabeth I famously bathed only once a month, quote, whether I need it or not. King Louis XIV of France reportedly took only 3 baths in his entire life. Water was for drinking, not for washing. The smell of unwashed bodies was just the smell of humanity. Then something shifted, and it started with a microscope. In the late 1600s, a Dutch fabric merchant named Antony van Leeuwen looked through a handmade lens. He examined a drop of pond water. He saw tiny things moving. He called them animals. He was the first human to see bacteria. But it took another 200 years for anyone to connect those tiny creatures to disease. In the mid-1800s, scientists like Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch proved the germ theory of disease. They discovered that specific invisible microbes caused cholera, tuberculosis, and anthrax. This was the greatest medical breakthrough in human history. It saved billions of lives. But it also triggered a psychological panic that we are still living with. Suddenly, the invisible world wasn't just there. It was out to get us. Microbes were no longer a part of the environment. They were the enemy, and the war on germs began. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, cleanliness became a moral imperative. Soap companies launched massive advertising campaigns. They didn't just sell soap, they sold fear. They convinced mothers that if their homes weren't spotless, their children would die. They created terms like body odor to shame people into buying their product. The messaging was clear. Dirt was not just unhealthy, it was morally wrong. Cities built massive sewer systems. Chlorine was added to drinking water. The goal was complete sterilization, eradicate the germs, eliminate the dirt, and it worked. Infectious diseases plummeted. Child mortality dropped dramatically. We conquered the microbe, but we made a critical mistake. We didn't know how to differentiate between the microbes that killed us and the microbes that kept us alive. We dropped a nuclear bomb on our own ecosystem. And that brings us to the hygiene hypothesis. In 1989, an epidemiologist named David Strachan noticed something strange. He was studying allergies in children. He found that children from large families with lots of older siblings had significantly fewer allergies. Why? Because older siblings are dirty. They bring infection, dirt, and microbes into the house. Strachan proposed that early exposure to germs actually protects against allergic diseases. Over the next 30 years, science proved him right. In the modern world, we live in sealed, climate-controlled boxes. We drink sterilized water. We wash our hands with harsh chemicals that strip away our natural microbiome. We take antibiotics that wipe out the flora in our guts. We are the cleanest humans to ever walk the earth, and our immune system are malfunctioning. Without the constant low-level training provided by a dirty environment, your immune system gets bored, gets paranoid. It starts attacking things that aren't dangerous. Pollen, peanuts, dust mites, even your own body. Autoimmune diseases like type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, and Crohn's disease have skyrocketed in the industrialized world. But in developing countries, where people are still heavily exposed to soil, livestock, and agricultural microbes, these diseases are remarkably rare. A study in 2016 compared 2 Amish communities. One used traditional farming methods, living closely with animals. The other used modern, mechanized farming. The traditional Amish children had near zero rates of asthma. The mechanized group did not. In 2012, researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital proved this in mice. They raised mice in a completely sterile environment. Those mice developed severe asthma and inflammatory bowel disease. Their immune systems were aggressive and hypersensitive. But when the researchers exposed infant mice to normal microbes, they were fine. The exposure had to happen early. If the immune system wasn't trained in the first weeks of life, the damage was permanent. It proved that our bodies don't just tolerate the dirty world. They expect it. They rely on it. The very dirt we spent 2 centuries trying to scrub away was the only thing keeping our immune systems from turning against us. You are not a sterile machine. You are a biological vessel designed to interact with the earth. Your ancestors survived for hundreds of thousands of years because of dirt, not in spite of it. The microbes in the soil built the defenses that allowed humanity to thrive. Today, we view cleanliness as the ultimate virtue. We equate sterilization with safety. But true safety doesn't come from isolation. It comes from integration. When we scrub away every trace of the natural world, we aren't just killing germs. We are killing a part of ourselves. We are severing a relationship that has existed since the dawn of our species. Next time you wash your hands, think about what you're actually washing away. You're not just removing dirt. You're erasing millions of years of biological history. The world is not a sterile place. And maybe, just maybe, you aren't supposed to be either.